Feed your mind and the rest will follow.
You start with figuring out what does health look like for me physically, mentally, emotionally, and work really hard on being good at you.
Healthy mind, healthy body, healthy life. Soul Food on Smooth 98.1.
Feed your mind and the rest will follow. You're welcome to the show that feeds you with the right dose of health information and caters to your wellness needs every Saturday from 8 till 8:30. Soul Food is the name of the show, and my name is Oluwaseun. This is Smooth 98.1 FM, and this morning I told you that we'll be discussing autoimmune diseases and your nutrition. In other words, how your nutrition contribute to what goes on in your body, the kind of diseases you get diagnosed with eventually. Because autoimmune diseases are quite, I call them, I don't know if I should say evil, but they are quite complicated because you almost have no explanation for them. So now we want to understand in what way at all that it contributes to your nutrition, that is, contributes to autoimmune diseases. And that means you first get a definition of what autoimmune diseases are. But I won't be the one defining that for you. I have a guest in the studio. And if you are on YouTube, you would have seen that she's standing. No, she's not policing anyone in the studio. She likes to stand because I remember the last time Dr. Patrick was in the studio and he said he walked down to the studio. And I'm thinking, what? That's literally walking the talk. Like, the health fitness journey, you don't just advise, you don't just give recommendations, you do it. And that was impressive. So she likes to stand whenever she's in the studio. Maybe I'll join her later on. But she is a clinical nutrition consultant and she's passionate about helping people understand the role and impact that nutrition plays in their overall health. And from lifestyle medicine to plant based nutrition to bariatric care to lifestyle diseases, you'll find her at the middle of all of those things. So she is Sherese Ijewere. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me on this morning.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for being here again. And I look forward to the enlightenment that will come to people as a result of the conversation today. All right, so like I mentioned, let's get to the basics, understanding what autoimmune diseases are and why it's best for them to be prevented.
Yes. So, simply put, autoimmune disease is our own system attacking our own cells.
Mm.
So you find that if you have, there are different autoimmune diseases that are there: type 1 diabetes, vitiligo, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, just to name a few. So these autoimmune diseases, you find that your own cells are starting to attack each other. It's not recognizing your own healthy cells anymore.
And that type 1 diabetes, I think it's important that we just enlighten a bit on it because when people hear diabetes, the first thing that comes to your mind is you have so much sugar in your bloodstream. You ate sugar. I think there are people who believe that once you eat something sugary, you're going to develop diabetes. And a number of people don't understand that there are different types of it, from the gestational diabetes to the type 2 and the type 1. So please, again, explain type 1 diabetes and how what is meant to break down the glucose in your body. Your body just decide no. And because of that, you might have to have insulin shot all your life.
Yes. So type 1 diabetes, something that many people are born with. And this is where the pancreas is not producing insulin. Type 2 diabetes, you usually get later on in life, though we're seeing that children are also coming down with diabetes, juvenile diabetes. And we are saying that this is mostly a lifestyle disease once you're in type 2. And gestational diabetes is when you're pregnant. This can also come about because your pancreas is not producing enough insulin. So in type 1, if your beta cells are attacking each other, you're not able to produce enough insulin.
And what happens all through your life? You have to keep taking the
You
injection.
have to keep on taking the insulin shots. Yes, yes. For some people, this does go in remission though, depending on how closely they follow with their endocrinologist, how closely they follow with their nutritionist. They're really intentional about their lifestyle. So, type 2 can be reversed. Gestational diabetes doesn't have to progress past pregnancy either.
All right, so this is about where we try, and I say try because, again, if the effort of scientists and studies have not done so much as touching it, we can only try to understand the link between, before we even get to nutrition, generally, what do you consider some risk factors for autoimmune diseases?
Okay, so some risk factors would be how stressed you are. So if you are in a stressful state, if you're fatigued, if you're bereaved, so if you have this level of stress, maybe you've lost your job, you're worried, these are things that can push you into autoimmune disorder. If you're not eating well, if you're not sleeping well, you're constantly fatigued, this is something to look into.
Mm. All right, now let's move over to nutrition and the complex interaction that maybe love-hate relationship that your body, your immunity shares with the food. How what you eat contributes to you probably being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease or not.
Yes. So we know that all disease begins in the gut, and 80% of your immune system actually lies in your gut.
Mm.
So, what you are putting in your body, what you're not putting in your body, also affects your whole system. So, when it comes to autoimmune diseases, if you are someone who is eating out a lot, you're eating a lot of processed foods is something that also pulls nutrients from the body. So the body is a complete system. And in order for foods to digest well, in order for you to absorb your nutrients, you have to put in the right foods. So when you're processing foods, there's ultra processed foods, there's processed foods. So when foods are processed, some of these main nutrients that the body needs, like the B vitamins, are just not there. So how do you digest it? Of course, digestion also pulls nutrients as well, and it will pull your baseline nutrients that you have in your body, now making you more depleted because you're not putting in what you need to.
Okay. So for the sake of somebody who has never been in on the conversation we had one time talking about processed foods, let's again go over the definition and classification of ultra processed foods and processed foods.
Okay, so ultra processed foods is where it's a mm, constant processing down to refined levels. So it could be things such as you have your whole grains and it's processed into flours like white flour, wheat flour. Even the white flour is, you know, also processed a bit more because it's taking out the shaft, it's taking out some of those vitamins that are there. And then the final product may be, it could be cereal, it could be biscuits. I mean, those are ultra processed foods. It could be sweets, it could be candy, which a lot of people, eat day to day.
So what makes the ultra processed foods the devil in this case?
Okay, that it has been, all the nutrients have been extracted from it to get to the bottom line of it being very, very processed.
Ah, okay. All right. So that just for someone to get it in crystal clear terms, ultra processed foods. And I think we can't run away from processed foods, can we?
We can.
Really?
Yeah, because we didn't have processed foods back then. Like your mom and grandma, did they have so much processed foods? Right now, everything is packaged, it's stored on a shelf. That is ultra processed. It can stay there for months and nothing happens to it. We should be worried. Yeah.
But the processed foods, you need, for some foods you need a level of processing to be able to eat them,
I
right?
do agree. So, for example, you have your ogi or your oats, so you have the steel cut oats and then you have the old fashioned oats. So, I'm going down in the level of processing. This is not processed steel cut, it's processed a little bit old fashioned, it's processed a little bit more 1 minute, it's processed a little bit more quick cooking, and it's the quick cooking that I see now. So you could actually just, you don't even have to put this on the fire, put some hot water in it and take it right away, and that ultra process means that those nutrients are no longer there. So from steel cut to quick cooking, you've lost a lot of nutrients.
Now that you mention it, it's like I just had an epiphany. I have wondered why these days we have it as part of the selling point, or some custards and some paps. They'll tell you you don't need to put it on fire. And I
Just put
know
the
that
hot
back
water in
then,
it.
when I was growing up, there is no how you will make ogi without fire. You need it at least, even if it's a minute, you still need to stir it on fire. But
Yes.
these days, all you just need to add is hot water and you're good to go.
Right. So
That
you've lost some of your nutrients there. Hmm.
Now, I'm more concerned about the additives in the food. There is something I came across in the course of reading food ads, and they mentioned something like intestinal barrier, and
Yes.
how the additives modify or alter that. Can you explain?
It does. So when you find packages or products in the supermarket, all these artificial flavors, artificial ingredients can cross the barrier, the gut lining, and it can also cause leaky gut syndrome. So your lining of your stomach is quite thin. And if that barrier is broken, proteins start to escape out and go into the bloodstream. And that's when you start getting things like leaky gut. So leaky gut syndrome can also manifest into autoimmune disorders.
Hmm. Wow.
So you have to be very careful and listen to the symptoms and signs that your body is giving you, because your body is constantly speaking to you. So if you find that, oh, I'm having headaches frequently, or I'm eating for, to have energy, but I'm constantly tired. I go to bed, I sleep long, but I still wake up tired. That's something that you need to check out. And then if you're having constant bloating, maybe diarrhea one day, or anything that you eat that your stomach seems like it reacts to, you know that something isn't right in your stomach, you need to have that checked out, because
Oh,
that can also result in autoimmune disorder. It's also called something called celiac disease.
oh yeah, that.
Mhm.
Well, if you're joining us for the first time, we're talking about the relationship between what you eat and autoimmune diseases. And this is Smooth 98.1. If you have any question, the WhatsApp line is 0809 4440981. Again, WhatsApp line 0809 4440981. While the call line 01484489981. You can also dial that WhatsApp line as well. And for streaming live on YouTube, it is youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. We'll be right back.
I also want to just bring to their awareness about antibiotics, because some people just take antibiotics carelessly. That's something that
So
also
that
causes
impairs the gut.
imbalance
Okay, we'll
of the
talk
gut.
about that. And
Your
I also
earnings,
want us to talk about
your
inflammation.
Yes.
your savings.
What causes
Tune in to
inflammation?
Smooth
What foods
98.1
are we
for a
taking
definitive
that
weekly
can
analysis
increase
and
or
check
reduce
on
it?
your income.
So that as
Cash
well.
flow that pays very little taxes.
Stay
What
on
made
top
you come
of
up with
money
this topic?
matters with the experts and make mastery
So I
of
was going to talk
financial
about
management
bread.
on a
Oh,
global
okay.
scale.
What a way to
I
run your
I just
life.
wanted
Personal
that
finance
conversation
on
about
Smooth
bread.
98.1
And in talking about
every
bread, I
Wednesday
realized,
from
okay,
5:15 p.m.
they link somehow, because we're talking
It's
about
all
processing.
about your
We're talking
finances
about.
made
So
easy.
there was one video I came across, and the person said, "Have you noticed that she gave her experience how she cut out bread and it felt like she felt so better. A number of things got imbalance and digestion problems. And she mentioned one particular thing that the more she reduced her bread intake, the more she didn't feel like eating bread.
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, that's true. Because I remember how I did without bread for a bit, and immediately I went back to it.
It was like an addiction kind of thing.
I want bread.
Your
I want
brain
bread. I want more
remembered.
bread.
Yes.
So I felt, okay, we should talk about it. Love music and love life. We are Smooth 98.1. 17 minutes past 8 o'clock. It's Soul Food on Smooth 98.1. We are talking about autoimmune diseases and nutrition. In other words, how does your nutrition contribute to the development of autoimmune diseases or generally some diseases in your body? So your WhatsApp line or our WhatsApp line, which can be the conversation or the mode of conversation for both of us, is 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp line. If you're sending a message for the first time, please include your name. My guest is a clinical nutrition consultant, and she is Sherese Ijewere. So while we're on the break, we discussed a little bit about antibiotics and how they can also modify or alter absorption and what goes on in your body. Please tell us more.
So you have your gut, your stomach, and your stomach is like, as I said, your immune system also lies into the gut, and all disease starts from the gut. So of course, if there is inflammation, if you put in things like antibiotics, your gut is made up of trillions and trillions of different bacteria that has to live together in harmony. And so if there is antibiotics that come in that will wipe out some of that bacteria, it's wiping out the good and the bad. And sometimes it will wipe out more of the good bacteria that's to keep you in homeostasis. So if you're having gut imbalance, gut dysbiosis, which just means bloating, you have stomach pain, you're saying it's ulcers, you're not even sure, you're just kind of managing along, those things are not normal. So antibiotics disrupts the flora of the gut, your homeostasis, and then genetically modified foods interrupt the gut flora as well. Steroids, some people are on steroids also for autoimmune disorder, for other ailments, those also interrupt the gut flora. So it's good to have someone who understands what really goes on in the gut.
And speaking about the gut, before I move over to the question about inflammation, whenever I hear gut, I think about probiotics and prebiotics. I think about yogurt. But then I remember one time, I can't call it an addiction, but I loved yogurt a lot. Guess what? I'm sure what I was taking was not yogurt. It was more like processed milk with sprinkles of sugar.
Yes.
So please tell me how beneficial yogurt is to your health and the kind of yogurt you should take.
So yogurts are beneficial, but the type, that's a good point. So you have the unsweetened yogurt, you have the sweetened yogurt, and what really is your yogurt made from? A lot of times, yes, it's made from full fat milk. You want to just find out what the source of this milk is, because if it's not cultured properly, the additives for the gut is not put in there, it's not enough that's in there, then it can cause a bit of gut imbalance, and instead of giving you a benefit, it can cause a lot of bloating. So it's like lactobacillus, some of these important things to help ferment the yogurt is put in.
So now let's say I want to be intentional about the kind of yogurt that I take, knowing that it's very good for the health and the gut balance, right? What should I be on the lookout for when I want to shop for yogurt the next time?
You could shop for a low-fat yogurt, unsweetened yogurt. I usually go for the ones that are not made from milk. So it could be a cashew yogurt, it could be an almond yogurt, so a nuts-based
Those
yogurt.
things are not tasty.
It's not, and it's not the same. It's not creamy and silky. However, it is better for you. Yeah. So and you remember, if you're lactose intolerant, that milk from that yogurt a lot of times does affect the gut system.
You know, now that you mentioned milk, I remember somebody, again, a conversation on Twitter. Somebody once said, what we have here in Nigeria is not much of great milk. and it's a semblance of milk.
Yeah, we're using the powdered milk. We're not even using the true pasteurized milk. We're not using that. So a lot of times you do have those lactose intolerance symptoms coming from the yogurts. And a lot of times,
Oh,
because you enjoy the yogurt, you just ignore the symptoms.
wait, that can't just pass like that. You mean some of the lactose intolerance, in other words, some people develop lactose intolerance as a result of consuming the yogurt, sorry, the milk here?
No, so in general, a lot of Africans are lactose intolerant. By the time you get to age 23, 24, you're already intolerant. I mean, so many people around the world are lactose intolerant, but Africans, for the most part, we don't have the enzymes to break down that lactase in the milk. But we continue on because we're enjoying the taste. So even though we're having nasty farts, belching, stomach bloating, we're still continuing and not thinking anything of it. But it is destroying the microbes in the gut.
Wow. Wow.
And we just manage this symptom on and on until eventually you get to the doctor, and the doctor is like, no, that's it. You have to stop so that you can stop having these symptoms. And these symptoms, which is just chronic inflammation, eventually leads to other things.
And I'll tell you one of the reasons why I was wowing. So my sister recently one of my sisters recently relocated to the UK, and she came to the family group page to come and lament about how she suddenly became lactose intolerant. And so she took the milk there, fresh milk, and her body just couldn't take it. And I'm thinking, are you sure that just started or it's been there all along? Now
And
that you
it's now
mentioned it,
pronounced.
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's just sad.
Mm-hmm.
I particularly hate diseases that come with race, that you're African American, so that, predisposes you to one thing or the other. I don't like you.
I know, I understand. But I mean, a lot of people around the world have lactose intolerances. And now with the cows being fed certain foods, certain grains, that also disrupts our own gut flora as well.
Tell me about it. It reminds me of a Netflix documentary, I say, Your What You Eat. I don't know if you've seen it before.
Yes, I have.
Oh, that was so expository.
Yes.
By the way, anyone who likes good knowledge and you love it being combined into entertainment as well, you should check out that series. You Are What You Eat. It will open your eyes to a lot of things. And what triggered it was what you said about the cows. The way they feed those cows, careful they call them,
Yeah.
so intense. Anyways, this is not a rant session. Back to understanding what goes on in your body and what you eat, how they interact. Let's talk about inflammation.
Yes.
And inflammation is such, I don't know again.
It's big because you see, even with this autoimmune disorder, autoimmune disease is an epidemic. It's on the rise around the whole globe. And in Nigeria, it's coming up there. So it's next to heart attacks, it's next to cancer. And when you put it all together, it's ranking number 3 per studies around the globe. So when it comes to inflammation, we all know that inflammation, let me give an example, is like you cut yourself, the body heals itself. If on your entire body you're having inflammation, like if you're, let me break it down. So if you're not sleeping well, this can be inflammation of the brain. Your brain also needs to detox. So when you sleep, the body helps to detox itself from head to your toe. If you are not eating well, of course, the body is unable to function at its optimal. So inflammation is created and you start having some symptoms. Symptoms could be even just being overweight. That's inflammation. If you are having steroids, or as I mentioned, antibiotics, the foods that you eat, yeah, all of this just contributes to a
Just
lot
goes
of
back
the
to
issues.
it again.
Yes.
Now, what are those foods you need to eat to control or maybe reduce the inflammation in your body?
Okay, so let's just take a step back and say that Remember, your body is also made up of different nutrients, your vitamins, your minerals, your proteins, and so forth. And if you don't have enough of these nutrients on board, then of course you become deficient. And what takes over is this inflammatory process. So, inflammation could be curtailed with things like the foods that you're eating, your vegetables, your natural juices, your natural grains. These can also help with reducing inflammation. Exercise helps with reducing inflammation. So, if you're just someone that wakes up in the morning, your first thing is, let me think about food, let me eat, let me sit down, let me be at work all day, that's inflammation factors building up. You also have to counteract it with a healthy lifestyle. And that healthy lifestyle would be one, intermittent fasting. You need to give a break to the body. That break also helps to detox some of the inflammatory factors out, which helps to reduce inflammation of the liver. And lots of people have fatty liver right now. It helps with your adjustment of your metabolism. Exercise is quite important, and this doesn't mean you have to go to a gym. It just means you need to move your body. So we are not creatures to sit all the time. We have two long legs. We need to be walking, jumping, skipping, dancing. And this is why they brought out things to also help, like the pedometer, so at least you have some accountability. So it's not where you have a choice, but it's something that you must do in order to keep yourself in wellness.
One question I would like to ask is touching the fruit and vegetables. I cannot deny that I worry sometimes when I buy my fruit and it feels like this thing has been forced to ripen. Does that have any effect on the quality and maybe what gets into your body when they force a fruit to ripen?
Certainly, because of course, a lot of times they're pouring chemicals on the foods that we're eating. So it would be good for you to have a trusted vendor. Maybe you get your fruit at a certain place, you speak to the vendor and ask them, where exactly is this fruit coming from? So for myself, we will go through to Benway to get like Benway mangoes. We will go to the organic fruit market. We have two in uh, on the island, and we have some on the mainland as well. So knowing that these farmers are truly bringing over organic foods, and there is a Nigerian association that actually goes to the farm and checks if these farmers are truly abiding by the organic rules, so that at least you can feel comfortable.
What if I buy the fruit when it is unripe and then I make it ripe in my house? Is that fine as well?
Yeah, that's fine. And we make it right by either putting it in a dark place or in a paper bag or in a warm room. It will eventually ripen on its own, and that's the best.
All right, thank you. Femi Isaac on Instagram said, sorry, did she say intermittent fasting? Yes. I remember one time that somebody opened my eyes to it and said, if you refuse to do intermittent fasting or fast at all, you'll be forced to. Because have you ever thought about why, when you are on admission, or sometimes when you need to, your body needs to be normalized when you are in the hospital, they tell you stay away from foods entirely.
Yes.
So, in other words, you better do that for yourself, or else you'll
Yes.
be forced to. All right, thank you. Let's go to WhatsApp. Dabo from Canada. Great conversation, Seun. I appreciate the topic and your guest's knowledge on the subject matter. It gives me great concern seeing how folks back home in Nigeria gravitate towards unhealthy foods, while those in diaspora spend fortunes on Afro-Caribbean cuisine to reduce risks associated with processed foods. Please keep on educating our people back home to stay true to our homemade cuisine. By the way, Seun Puff Puff Alata is the real deal. Keep up the good work. I am a huge fan. No, please. We don't want pepper in our puff puff. I don't like it. I don't want it at all. All right, Cruz on WhatsApp says, good morning, doctor. Does a nice portion of vegetables help? Say processed foods with a nice bowl of vegetable, garnished with good fresh fish, garlic, onions, pepper, tomatoes, and little or no salt. That sounds like you want to garnish the poo. That's how it comes to me. But what's your take?
Yeah, so of course I know that, for example, there is the white rice. And so, the white rice, many people like this rice that's coming from abroad. We really don't know how long it's been sitting in the silos in the foreign country. We have our indigenous red abakaliki rice, we have our brown rice, and as long as it doesn't go through the process of taking off the chaff, the bran, it does take a bit longer to cook, then yes, you have it with vegetables and it's fine. So of course we say that half of your plate should be with vegetables. So if you are having something processed, just make sure half of the plate is with vegetables and that you're mindful about all the processed foods that you're taking in. But really we want to minimize it as much as possible.
Something tells me somebody will listen to you and say, oh yes, so now I can eat my 2 minute instant noodles with lots of vegetables. What do you say?
No, remember, these processed foods are also robbing your own body of the vitamins and minerals that it needs. And this is something that pushes us into autoimmune disorders. If you don't know the current status of your nutrition, of what your body is composed of, the minerals, the vitamins, if you're low on the scale, and you're continuously eating like this, you'll continuously have these symptoms. So there is a test that can be done. It's called the nutrient analysis test. And it picks up, like, if you're low in vitamin B1, if you're low in zinc. These are the things that pushes you into autoimmune disorder. Vitamin D is a big one. And yes, we have the sunshine in Nigeria, but many people are inside. They're in their homes, they're in their offices. They hardly see sun. You remember when we had COVID? There was a push for vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc. These are things to improve the immune system. Remember, the immune system lies in the gut. So once it's compromised, once it's down, once it's low, it exposes you to all these ailments like autoimmune disorders.
Thank you. Cruz says, yogurt and powdered milk too. I think we should just stick to beans, fruits, and vegetables and small puff puff.
He loves puff puff.
He does. Well, yogurts are not bad. Milk is not bad. Just know the one you're going for. She said almond milk,
cashew milk, tiger nut milk.
In other words, from plants.
Plant-based milk, yes. Because many of us are lactose intolerant. We're just in denial.
Okay. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for the conversation. It was really enlightening. Any other addition you would like to add?
Yeah, I would just like to say, be careful of your stress levels. I do know there's a lot of stress in our society. And when you feel like you're having anxiety, you're anxious, you're just having uncertainty, stop, take a deep breath, try not to overwork yourself, and know that everything is going to be fine, because you don't want to add to whatever it is that's going on in your life with ailments, with sickness, because that can also push you in autoimmune disorder if the cortisol levels are constantly high.
Thank you. You're active on social media, I believe.
Yes, we are active on Carib Health NG on IG.
Okay, that's the handle in case you want to find out more about them and what they do. For now, we are done for Soul Food. Next week, we'll return from 8 till 8:30, discussing about your health and wellness. And in 6 minutes' time, it will be with the children on Curious Minds from 8:40 till 9:10. And you should allow your nephews, nieces, cousins, children to be a part of it, as long as they are between 6 to 15 years of age. You're welcome as well. Later on, it will be Smooth Explorer. My name is Oluwaseun, and you can find a repeat of this on YouTube at Smooth 91 FM. Bye.
And the rest will
Time goes by so quickly. Is that the time?
We actually overshot the time. It's 8:35.
Wow.
And work really hard.
That's
I know.
amazing.
Time flies by when you're having a good conversation.
Healthy body, healthy life. Soul food.
Thank you so much.
Your